Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and sports fans alike. Welcome to the Ruckus and The Menace podcast. I'm Spence the Menace.
And I'm Ruckus, always causing a ruckus as per usual.
And on this episode of the Ruckus and The Menace podcast, we are recapping we are going through some standard quick take headlines, and primarily going through the recap of week 9 of the NFL season and getting into the midseason awards.
Oh
Er,
yeah.
Yeah, so kind of to go along with this, Ruckus, what have you kind of been up to?
Uh, As far as watching stuff, a lot of football, trying to also other sports news, trying to get us ready for the podcast. As far as just figuring out what I want, I'm trying to educate myself better on my decisions I've made in the past as far as sports stuff. Yes, you heard that right. Um, there's always room for improvement, no matter what. But I've been watching a lot of football and just analyzing certain things because the trade deadline happened a couple weeks ago, and I have also just been analyzing a lot on like offense and defense for the Chiefs. Um, a lot meaning not just observing what goes on during the games. And then I've just been watching a lot of YouTube. I watch a lot of tech YouTubers, and I found some cool, interesting things about learning when it came to the Steam Deck, as far as allowing more things to happen with it for like better performance in games per se, and just learning more about the device that I picked up a week or so ago. It's a very cool device. Other than that, I've been playing video games and playing mainly multiplayer games with friends. Battlefield, Payday 2, which is a bank robbing game, and other games uh, on that front. And also got caught up on some sleep. Uh, how about you, Spennis?
WVU Oklahoma is this weekend, and
Boomer,
I will
mother
be,
effing sooner, boy.
and I am in Morgantown. Hopefully, Lord willing, Country Roads is queued. We will be, I will be live at the game, and Ruckus will be still in Kansas, but but that's all beside the point. I've been playing a good amount of Marvel Snap on my phone and Mario and Rabbids on my Switch whenever I get chances. Um, Other than that, it's been just work, go through things, eat, and sleep.
Yeah, that's
So,
pretty much what I've been through. I just didn't, I wanted to like be a little bit like, yeah, I do some stuff.
uh, oh
Not
yeah,
really.
oh yeah. Well, I just know that my big experience of Morgantown is going to be a very much of a treat. But
Last time I ever
with that,
experienced a college football game was like Kansas, Oklahoma, and it was at Kansas Memorial. And it wasn't
yeah,
too bad, but that was a while ago. But anyways, back to what we were
yep.
saying.
But why don't we get right into the starting lineups? And we get to kick this thing off with the MLB World Series, where
The
while
fighting
Ruckus nailed the NCAA March Madness, there was another one that I somehow had nailed on the head earlier. And then I managed to do this one again with the Astros defeating the Phillies in 6 games.
the fighting Phils turned into the okay, we're at the World Series Phils.
Oh no, it's just Justin Verlander actually got his first career World Series win. I mean, there's a lot that's going on, and really the biggest news is in MLB right now, just simply because the World Series is done, the off season's beginning, and Rizzo just opted out.
Yeah, also, if the listeners want to imagine something, imagine this. Imagine me and Spanish shaking hands as I also congratulate Dusty
Dusty
Baker
Baker and Jeremy Penny.
for his first World Series as a manager, and then Jeremy Pena as his first World Series champion, nonetheless, but World Series MVP. That man, that stud is amazing.
We'll get more to him later.
Anyways,
I'll,
go ahead on the news stories. My bad.
yep, but I know that I don't think we got to see a whole lot of like any other free agent stuff. Bids are now starting to become interesting on the Commanders. It's looking like more and more that Dan Snyder is going into full sale mode. Yes, kind of glad. But with all the MLB players becoming free agents, top names being Aaron Judge, Xander Bogaerts, Anthony Rizzo, Jacob deGrom, Trey Turner, Carlos Correa, Dansby Swanson are kind of the biggest names. And it looks like the shortstop position, again, for free agency is loaded. And actually Carlos Rodon also became a free agent as well. So the MLB offseason is now on and rolling, and give it time for winter meetings to kick in. The arbitration deals sealing themselves off, and free agency becomes a thing.
Also, nonetheless, your Boston Red Sox still have Eric Hosmer as far as the first baseman option or DH.
Did he wait? He opted in?
Yeah, he opted in. He opted in with his 3-year, $39 million. I think is still left on the deal.
Was it all 3 years, or is it just one of them?
I think it was all 3 years. Let me. But other than that, as far as other stuff that I've seen, Aaron Judge. There's like a lot of photoshopped Aaron Judge pictures of him in different uniforms, and I like the one with the Royals.
Yeah, of course,
but...
because every single player is going to be, every single team is going to be after him. And then, kind of, if they're not after Judge already, they're probably after Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts, or Dansby Swanson. If they're needing pitching, it's going to be Jacob deGrom. I don't think the Braves are going to have as much to do with free agency at this point because they spent a good amount of time investing in the players they already have and getting the players that are on their roster secured for long-term deals. Austin Riley, Spencer Strider. I think Michael Harris might be within the next couple of years unless he's already gotten his.
Eric Hosmer won't exercise opt-out clause. In one of the most obvious opt-out decisions in recent memory, Red Sox first baseman Eric Hosmer will forego his opportunity to return to the open market. Tweets John Heyman of the New York Post. He's now locked in for final 3 years and $39 million of the contract. This is on TradeRumors.com. I saw it as a tweet earlier, so I just couldn't figure out who it was.
I think this is a net. I think this ultimately is a net L for the Red Sox.
I mean,
especially because that money is not cheap.
Okay, but the Red Sox, when it comes to like contracts alone, when it comes to like how much they pay their players, it seems like they're a bigger market than like most other small market teams. Like, I feel like he's better than the Pablo Sandoval contract that you guys gave to Pablo like in 2016. That was probably one of the worst ones.
Yeah, the Panda deal was bad. But you got Tristan Casas already there. Basically it's almost like we could let Hosmer walk, let Tristan Casas come in and actually get a full year under the belt. I know that first base is limited in terms of the market. We could be in a solid competition to pursue an Anthony Rizzo had we not had Hosmer. Hosmer probably comes into us a little cheaper. Don't get me wrong.
I feel like Hosmer's a better defensive guy and just overall could like give you depth, whereas Rizzo, I don't know. Yes, they're both very talented players, but I don't see it in Rizzo. I see it more in Haas, but that's also because I'm a Royals fan, so my bias will be a lot different compared to Rizzo.
Yeah, but JD Martinez hits the free agent market. We shouldn't look at picking him back up.
Hell no.
I mean, as good as JD Martinez is, I just don't think he's the right fit to come back. Christian Vasquez hits the free agent market. Time for Boston to possibly do a little bait and switch.
You could probably still have. Well, actually, no. Never mind. I was thinking of Kevin Pilecki, but he's a Ranger now, so that doesn't matter for that as far as backup catching. Christian Vasquez definitely could come back as a catcher.
Yeah, coming back, yeah, that would be huge if he came back. But it would be hard. It would be hard and just be like, and it would just look at us like, what the heck? Why did we give him up? Why did we give him up in the first place if he was just going to come back?
Because your team sucked in August. No offense.
I,
That's why.
well, we fell apart. I would say this: it ended up getting a lot worse than what I thought, but it was basically like right around the time of the trade deadline, Boston just went off the rails, and the season just fell apart.
Yeah.
But of course, in the simulated games, kind of just it ended up being the same nature of I lost. Ruckus won his matchup.
I got kind of lucky here because at the last minute I put Lazard in because um I had Devin Singletary, but at the end of the day Devin Singletary had like about 8 points less than Lizard, and I ended up winning because of that. So Kelsey did well, Lizard went well, and then Allen just went on a tear even though he didn't have a good game.
Yeah. And then on our primetime game, which since we're not going to have a primetime game due to kind of some extended run, Ruckus also won the receiving core battle of the deal or no deal with the Commanders getting 2 touchdowns. Both teams got 2 touchdowns, but the yardage favored Ruckus along with the rushing along with the rushing yard.
Can you repeat
Along with
that?
the, yeah, you ended up winning that. You ended up winning that one
Can you repeat that again?
last week. Ruckus actually won that last week with the Commanders, which I think a lot of that had to do with the Eagles not throwing the ball. And actually I only ended up with 1 touchdown, not 2. I only ended up with 1 touchdown, not 2.
Thank you
So
for letting me be cynical for once because I haven't won any of these as
primetime games, yeah. Well, it's hard when most of the primetime games involve involve a lot less luck than sometimes what Deal or No Deal brings to the table. But I also will say that also attributed very well to the Houston Texans and kind of their pass defense for that game, because even though Jalen Hurts had 243 yards and no interceptions, along with the 2 scores, the Eagles also established themselves very well with running the football. So that as a whole kind of helped the situation a little bit more for the for you to get the victory as opposed to some other things. Looks like Brian Robinson's agent is now taking issue to invoking Robinson shooting as a preemptive response
Are you talking
in
about the
Attorney General's announcement. Yep.
I didn't Attorney General. Oh, like for politics.
Yeah, it was for Carl Racine. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't really following any of that. I thought you were talking about the running back, or I don't
Oh,
even
it
think it
was
was a
a
running back. The guy that got shot like a while
yeah,
ago that came back.
yeah.
I thought that's
The agent took exception to the attorney general kind of saying like making a major announcement and kind of just said something that was maybe not in as great a taste. And Matthew Stafford now in concussion protocol, so that LA Rams game is going to get very, very interesting. And we do have it in our film room this week. But before we get to that point, let's recap the week that was in the NFL season and go right into week 9. And we are now to our who was our most impressive team this week.
You want me to start it off?
Yep, go ahead.
All right. So my most impressive team this week was the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, well, there's one reason why, and I'm sure you put him properly where he belonged.
Yep. All right.
But
What's yours?
for me, I took the Jets.
Their defense
A-
looked really good last game. I'm just gonna say it straight up
And
against the
they
Bills.
and they are showing it on that side of the ball and not being intimidated by the high-powered offense that the Bills put put out there. And who was your most disappointing team, Ruckus?
I know it was a slow pro. It was a not slow, a very like intense game for the Bills, but they did not play well. Allen even said himself they played like shit, and honestly, I would say the most disappointing team is the Buffalo Bills.
And I'm shocked you actually went with that because there were when I look at disappointing, I think there were a few more disappointing showings that I thought you would have went with. Green Bay, Indianapolis, maybe a touch of one that I probably was about to touch upon. The
I mean,
Saints.
that's too easy. I just kind of wanted to point out that even the better teams in the league can still lose in mysterious ways like they did. And like the Bills, they suffered from the same kind of syndrome as what the Chiefs did a lot like last year. Not in the same kind of way, but like Mahomes got intercepted a lot and the team just looked lost and shot themselves in the foot, and the Bills kind of did the same thing against the Jets at MetLife. But it is what it is. You live and you learn. You just move forward. But yeah,
I guess I'm just in that thing of that. Yeah, they lost by 3. They probably had a shot at it. They legitimately had a shot at it. Is it really a disappointment though?
I mean, yeah, because I thought the Bills would do better. I
Yeah,
mean, it's for the week. It's not for the year.
true. But my most disappointing team this week is the Las Vegas Raiders.
No, you gotta say it
Yes,
like
that's
this. You gotta say it like this. The Raiders.
Raiders. Yeah, I wasn't gonna try and go for the Chris Berman like.
Sorry, you did Chris Berman, and I had to do the home run
The
derby
the
thing.
back. Yeah, I do.
Back.
So so here so here's why I am taking the Las Vegas Raiders. With 10:51 to go in the second quarter, they were up 17 to nothing. The most amount of points they had in a lead. They led by as much as 17, and they had a 20-7 lead before giving up the 44-yard field goal to Riley Patterson to send the game into halftime. The Jaguars scored 17 unanswered points to beat the Raiders 27-20. How do you're up by that much? You've been hitting Devontae Adams with the ball pretty much all day. How do you lose that type of game in that regard? Just how? You're on such a roll early on. What collapse do you really think had to be made for that to be such a thing? And then who was your most impressive player this week?
So, you know the truck rental car, right? The Hertz rental car, or like not the
Oh
rental
my
cars, but
goodness.
like the rental trucks. Well, Jalen Hurts is more than just a rental truck that you could just bring around and store things for temporary use and then move or whatever. Jalen Hurts just keeps going. He is like, I don't want to say Audi because I feel like that's very cheap on his part. The man's like a Ferrari. He'll zoom around, he'll run around, but he can also throw the ball. And he did it in Alabama, and he did it for the OU Sooners, Boomer Sooner.
I mean,
And that's why he's my most impressive player. Not only is he on a undefeated team, but he went for he as far as completion rate, he was 21 through 27 with 243 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. And that's why I have him as my most impressive player. So Spennis, who is your most impressive player?
I am taking though we would be kind of be talking like Ferraris and stuff like that. You would almost go with you would think of a person who you're going to name as your stud later. Well, you're saying that Hertz was like a Ferrari. The guy you're going to mention at the stud was kind of like a Lambo. But I'm going to be sitting over here that even though it was in a loss, I'm going to be looking at the Aston Martin in this situation here. And I'm going with Justin Fields.
Can you
Who,
remind
though.
me who they played? Because for whatever reason, I can't remember.
Oh,
The
you're,
Bear.
oh, you're talking the Bears?
Yeah,
The Bears went and played Miami.
that's right. For whatever reason, I
The,
couldn't get that.
the Bears were playing the Miami Dolphins.
And they had a holding call, didn't? Or not a holding call, a pass interference call that didn't get called
Yeah,
with Chase Claypool. That was BS.
right, right. Yeah, there was some tough calls in that. But even though Justin Fields only had 123 passing yards, the real day was when his wheels were on the turf, hitting the and spinning in all four cylinders, on all cylinders, as he had an NFL mark of 178 yards rushing and had 4 total touchdowns. Granted, it was
Or
in a
as you say,
35 to
tutties.
32. Yeah, Tutties. Yep. That's exactly what. And Fields had a heck of a ball game. I mean, warranted 47 points in my fantasy football league, and Mixon had 50. So those were two huge days. I just took the smaller one for most impressive player this week.
We can talk about fantasy later too, but before we end. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, I
because I have a
mean,
funny story.
we didn't need to necessarily hit like a big thing, but I think Joe Mixon, the Joe Mixon thing is definitely going to be mentioned here later on.
Yeah.
But it is now time for the Eastwood segment of the show. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. You're welcome. All right. You want me to
Wondering
start?
how long it was going to take for you to react to that.
Well, I was trying to get it to pick up on my mic, so I had to I was about to go whoa, and then it didn't pick up, so I was like, God damn it. That's the one thing. That's the one downfall with NVIDIA broadcasts is you gotta talk and then do stuff so it doesn't pick up whatever you have in the background. But anywho, all right. So we got the good, the bad, and the whoa whoa whoa. All right. So my
That was
good.
more of that needed to be more like a wah, wah, wah,
Oh, you're just a hater. Haters gonna hate.
wah, wah,
Whoa
wah.
whoa.
I was more so trying to go for the I was more so trying to go for the not so good thing like in SpongeBob. I was just waiting for
Oh
you to
yeah.
respond
Wah,
with the
wah, wah.
will you cut that out?
Because I think it was. Wasn't
It
that
was
the episode?
the Jelly Spotters episode.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You just hear wah wah wah. See, this is
That's where I was
this is a time that Spence gives me crap after I gave him the crap about the cliff joke. Here we go. All right, so good, bad, and ugly. Whoa,
all
whoa,
right.
whoa. All right, so my good was there's a lot of competition between the teams on week 9, especially because there were 4 teams that had your final score of 20-17 as
Yep.
their ending game, and only one of those uh, teams went to overtime and actually won it, which was the Kansas City Chiefs. But my bad was Josh Allen being intercepted twice at MetLife Stadium, and he even, like I said earlier, he said that he played like shit in his ending interview. And then the ugly, the Saints lose Michael Thomas for the season with his foot injury. Shocker. That was sarcasm.
Yeah, there was no shock to that, especially after he actually started to sit out. But for me, I had my good as teams still having great performances in spite of losing. The first one that really comes out and sticks to mind is that set the tone. How the Houston Texans handled themselves during the prime game against Philadelphia. The Bears against Miami. And then I was also throwing the Commanders against the Vikings as another team that had very, very solid performance throughout the game. My bad. The Colts offensive line in protecting Sam Ellinger.
To be honest, it was bad to begin with, even with Matt Ryan.
Oh yeah. But do you really think that Matt Ryan would have gotten sacked 9 times?
I mean, Jim would probably have a say on that one.
Not to kind of go into the 50 Cent type of realm with this, but I don't know if Matt Ryan would have been able to live to tell the tale if he got sacked 9 times.
So get rich or die trying. Is that where you're
That
going?
was, I guess, that was kind of his MO when he got traded over there.
Was he patiently waiting?
Oh my!
Dun 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 dun. Sorry.
But I think the last place we would be finding Matt Ryan right now would be in the club.
Meet me in the mall. It's going down. Definitely different artists, but anyways.
Yeah, that was not where that was. That did not match the joke.
I know.
Because you just referenced Young Jock when we were going through 50 Cent.
I didn't even know who the artist was, but that's hearsay. But anyways, let's go
Oh,
to the
but my
next one.
ugly is still something that honestly we've been criticizing for the past God knows how long this season. But again, it is the Packers offense after not acquiring a receiver at the deadline.
Or a tight end in Darren Waller, allegedly.
Yeah, I mean, Darren Waller would have been nice too, but I think that getting a receiver that would have been worth a little bit more probably would have helped a lot more.
But it probably would have helped a lot if Aaron Rodgers took less money.
Well, we'll
Because
get
he.
to that here. We'll get to that here a little later.
All right.
the The best game for you this week, I know exactly where you landed.
The stroke-inducing game of the Chiefs and Titans.
I probably would have tied with that, but then the Vikings won that football game against the Commanders with 12 seconds left in the game. Granted that the Commanders kind of shot themselves in the foot there a
Yeah.
lot,
But
but
that Bears game also was pretty good too.
oh yes, I definitely got to give a lot of props to the Bears game. And there were a lot of games that were very, very tight, close, could have went either way.
Yeah.
But how about the ones that weren't so good, Ruckus?
I
What was
picked
your
the.
worst game this week?
My bad. My worst game was the Raiders versus Jaguars, just simply because yes, both teams are not in like the greatest standings as far as how the team is doing, but the Raiders kind of got screwed early on in the game, and then just made it a lot worse when Jacksonville um, got the touchdown lead near the end, and they need to fix their shit. That's all I'm gonna say. What was your Spinnis?
I took the Colts Patriots in just the amount of times that Ellinger got sacked. The Colts probably could have played better, but the Patriots are just something unlike what a lot of us are seeing right now. They're playing extremely well.
And Mac
And
Jones had a
Ruckus,
good game too, right?
Mac Jones, I don't think had a horrible game because Mac
So
Jones went. I mean, had 120, had 147 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. I mean,
was
it
Zap
wasn't.
injured?
No, Mac Jones is just back.
Because didn't they have Mac Jones start one game and then they put Zap in because of
Yes, they
his.
did. Yes, they did. But then Mac Jones is still the number one guy in New England.
Interesting. Okay. Because if you would have said that 20 years ago, that would have been a different story.
You mean 20? You mean 20 years ago or 2 weeks ago?
I was saying if you if you would have thought about it, they were probably thinking, "Oh, Zappy is gonna be a replacement for Mac Jones," but in reality, that happened 20 years ago with Bledsoe to
Yeah,
Brady.
with Tom Brady being the replacement to Drew Bledsoe. Yep.
Yeah, so that's why I was making that comment. But anyways, are
And
we?
what is your bold take?
My bold take is so we talk a lot of we talked a lot of smack recently about Baker Mayfield, but honestly, like take this with a grain of salt. But I think that Baker will probably bring the bakery back to Carolina. It'll take some time. Yes, he's had injury problems before. Yes, he doesn't really have a huge wide receiver or weapon arsenal to his advantage. But at the same time, I think that with the changes that he's gone through with the Browns and what he's going through now with Carolina, he'll have a better shot. According to how he played last week when they took PJ Walker out, who had a 0 QBR rating. And I just think, as far as Baker Mayfield's concerned, I think he needs to step up, and I think he's slowly getting to that point. And I think he'll bring the bakery back. I don't. I feel like saying. I feel like that saying is probably not really like viral, but I just thought it was clever to say. But anyways, what do you
I
think?
think I think the rationale behind your argument, especially with the next few games that are coming up for the Panthers, might be a little more half baked than what you think.
Oh, like gooey
The
center.
um, I mean, I wouldn't have said if I would have said overbake, it would have been like completely burnt to a crisp. But it's just like it doesn't really have like the gooey center just kind of doesn't have a whole lot of substance to kind of go along with it. It doesn't really have that crunch on the outside that kind of sits right to kind of say, this is really a good take, because you have in the next 4 games, there is only one that I feel Carolina has a legitimate shot at.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
They have the Falcons, the Ravens, the Broncos, and the Seahawks in the next 4 games. And that's just to get them to mid-December. It's a little bit of some tough sailing for the Panthers coming up here. So I mean, as much as I could say I respect the idea that you were trying to think of, I just think it was not quite baked. It kind of needed to be in the oven a little bit longer to really have it get its full effect.
It probably needed to be more bolder in taste.
Yeah, it's not quite. The yeast isn't quite rising. However, here is where I think this is going to really, really be a good take. The Vikings have spent the last 6 weeks on a hot streak. But the real test of whether they are truly contenders begins with the next 4 games in their regular season. Now, this tells you one thing. That the next 4 games, they have the Buffalo Bills, the Dallas Cowboys, they have a short week to play the New England Patriots, and then they play the Jets. And I think there's a few teams in there where the mettle of Kirk Cousins as a quarterback and Kevin O'Connell as a coach will really get tested.
I feel like 3/4 of the schedule is going to be hard, and then the 1/4 of it might be easy as far as the Cowboys are concerned.
Oh, wait. You're talking for the Cowboys?
So I'm thinking that the Vikings will beat the Cowboys, is what I'm saying.
Oh, so you're thinking that the Vikings...
I'm saying it's going to be a challenge for them to get through the Bills, Patriots, and Jets because of how they operate.
Yeah. Well, because Dallas will have Green Bay, Minnesota, the Giants on Thanksgiving, and then go on a 10-day break to then eventually play the Colts. So Dallas's schedule is going to ease up. It's just the Vikings are going to be a tough opponent. And the Giants the second time around is in Dallas. So I mean, Dallas might have something solid going on. And then the mind-burning question this week is, with the Packers being at 3-6, did the Green Bay front office handle the Aaron Rodgers situation over the past couple of years correctly? And my answer My answer to this is no.
I
I
feel like
think they probably should have just cut the ties with him or figured out some sort of way to trade him last offseason.
there's a lot of factors into that. So, one, who's going to go for Aaron Rodgers 2 years ago? Two, I wouldn't have probably traded him. I probably would have negotiated less money and see what would happen, even if he walked. Three, um, your luck as far as getting a good quarterback would have dried out compared, depending on um, who you got as a quarterback. Four, do you really want to start a rookie quarterback in their first year? Probably not, especially when you're number five. Your offensive line is a little beat up. Bakitari is injury prone at this point and getting to the point where he just doesn't play as much. Six, do we really know the situation between Aaron Rodgers and the GMs? No. Seven, uh, what was going on between the talks between him and Devonte Adams as far as figuring out the negotiations? Because Devonte Adams wanted more, and he wasn't getting it because obviously Aaron Rodgers wanted all the money, and he pretty much just said screw you. Like, as far as Rodgers was, he said screw you, I want the most money and you're not getting it, but probably said it in a more fashionable way, and obviously Rodgers just doesn't give a crap. So that's where I stand on it. I feel like obviously they didn't handle it well, but at the same time, what can you do when you have a quarterback that doesn't want to uh, solve a problem easily and wants to make a fuss about things because he wants it his way or the highway?
Yeah, that is true. I mean, and that's the hard part about dealing with an Aaron Rodgers, and that's where they probably should have figured out how to make him walk or try and restructure him when they had the chance, and they failed to do so.
Even then, who are you gonna get to trade for an old quarterback that may or may not be washed up? Like, yes, you could have gone to the Broncos. You could have gone to the Jets, who probably needed a quarterback, even though they have a rookie one. You could have gone to the Giants, which desperately need a quarterback. Daniel Jones ain't it. Sorry, New York Football Giants fans. Um, who else? The Seahawks could have had one before, or probably after the Russell Wilson trade, or before. Who knows? Um, the Raiders maybe. Sorry, Derek Carr, you ain't it either. There could have been a lot of teams, but at the same time, who was going to afford him or willing to pay for him and deal with his BS? That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I
Um,
think that hurt. And that's the thing that ultimately hurts him a little bit more. But kind of to
um,
shift gears here, what was your burning question, Ruckus?
so at at the beginning of the year, I had the Jets as the team that was probably going to progress less, but as they have opened up on the rankings, I'm wondering if the Jets are sleepers to win the AFC East because they just beat the Buffalo Bills and they played the fiddle with Josh Allen as far as trying to get on cue of what they were trying to get from the wide receiver read on the defensive side. Do you think that they could do that same read with other teams and trying to figure out the offense on other teams that they play later on as far as the Jets are concerned? Because Sauce Gardner had an interception on Josh Allen, and then another player that I can't remember the name of had an interception on Josh Allen. And in general, that game was just not looking good for the Bills because they kept on making mistakes. And when it comes to a team of lesser. Well, I wouldn't say lesser talent, but like um, just not see a team that doesn't have as much of an advantage because based on just how people perceive them as far as talent would go so far as being like, oh well, the Jets should lose this game. This should be a cakewalk for the Buffalo Bills. Like, obviously not, because the Jets won by 3 points because they were able to stop them on defense and figure out Josh Allen's offensive approach, because he was thinking, oh, I'm going to throw it to this guy, when it turns out, oh, I got intercepted and now I'm going to be frustrated because obviously I screwed up. Like, who knows? So my point to that was, are the Jets sleepers to win the AFC East because of how they've been playing lately, and I feel like they could possibly sneak in. They're getting close.
I'm gonna say maybe. I think the Bills would have to suffer a couple more losses in order to do that, but it's not out of the question.
Who's to say that the Bills just they who's to say that the Bills lose a couple more games because maybe the virus spreads a little bit more into Allen, because not only does he have a UCL sprain, maybe that makes it to where he starts having problems, because Mahomes had the same thing last year. He had the turf toe, and he wasn't 100%. And
Yeah.
then that turned into other things. But also, he had a new offensive line that he was trying to learn from. So, who knows?
Yep.
Who really knows?
But here's the Bills in their next 5 games: Vikings, Browns, Lions on Thanksgiving, Patriots, Jets, and with the Dolphins in mid-December after that. If they get through the 11th and the 18th with wins, Buffalo wins the division. And they can go into Christmas Eve facing the Chicago Bears, where Buffalo will probably be, or Buffalo will take care of business, and they can celebrate Christmas from the comfort of their own home and do well. And celebrate a playoff appearance.
And also watch Elf, because that's also set in New York.
Yeah, but I think that's New York City, but
Well,
neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But we now go to the film room, where we kind of ended up with a few close ones last week. But my question now, as far as starting the pitch for this segment and episode, Oklahoma at WVU.
Let me start by doing this. This shout out to my mom and my dad. Da 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 da. That's the fight song for OU. Cause Boomer Sooner, baby.
And I am taking WVU.
Also, I'd probably be asking for a place to stay if I didn't. Just saying. Please don't disown me.
Yeah. I am taking WVU. Ole Miss, Alabama.
I'm gonna take Ole Miss, just because I feel like that there might be something to the equation. Who knows? The equation might be nothing.
I'm taking the Tide. I think that Alabama bounces back. Central Florida versus Tulane.
All right, Hurricanes. I'm going Tulane.
Their mascot is actually called the Green Wave. I'm going Tulane.
Woo!
And
So scary.
and now we're going to Division 2, something a little bit closer to my home base. Shepherd versus Indiana University of Pennsylvania for the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference Championship.
I am up for a challenge, so I'm gonna go with I up.
You're going with IUP. I'm taking my alma mater, Shepherd. And I think
It's
Shepherd will
solid.
win big because they have the reigning Harlan Hill winner in Tyson Bagent from Martinsburg High School. And that's another one where it's a Go Dogs.
Go Tigers, like Coach O.
No, this is Go Dogs. Like not quite Georgia, but same mascot and concept.
Go Tigers.
uh, but now the NFL. Minnesota versus Buffalo.
I'm going with the Buffalo Bills.
I think Minnesota's win streak ends here. The Chargers and the 49ers.
I'm gonna probably have to go with the Niners, just based off of talent that they have compared. Because, like, yes, you have Herbert and some wide receivers and some change, but your defense is beat up, and Keenan Allen is just now coming back, I believe.
Yeah, something like that.
So who knows how he's gonna fare, but Niners look better.
And now the Lions and the Bears.
I'm going Detroit Lions because I feel like they could probably find a weakness in the Bears' offense and defense.
And I'm going with the Bears in that one.
And then
And
we
now,
have the Arizona Cardinals versus the LA Rams.
and note, Matt Stafford is out with a concussion.
Um, what's who's his backup QB?
For what? For Matt Stafford?
Yes, sir.
Let's see. Only one. I mean, as much as we don't want to have to resort to backup quarterbacks.
John Wolford.
Oh yeah. The once
So the last
now
time
that
that
Matt,
they had that issue, they kind of screwed the pooch. So I'm gonna go Arizona. Now that
well,
I forgot about that.
yeah, yeah, I'm taking Zona as well. And then the Eagles and the Commanders.
I'm picking the Washington Commanders because I hope to God that my bold take actually goes through. And yes, I'm betting on that, but not in real money, just straight up. I just feel like the Commanders could upset the Eagles, and then it'll make Jalen Hurts so good because it love shouldn't hurt like it should, but baby, it hurts so good.
I am taking the Eagles. I think that though I think that the Commanders are the best team that the Eagles are going to face prior to December. I am taking the Commanders to beat out I'm taking the Eagles to beat the Commanders, as the Eagles will not be tested again after the Commanders until December. And now the next segment we have after the film room, we now go to the color commentary, which is our midseason award. And we will start with Offensive Player of the Year.
All right, so I'm just gonna say this now and forever hold your peace. My Offensive Player of the Year is Travis Kelce, number 87 of the Kansas City Chiefs. Also a co-host of the New Heights podcast. Shout out, please shout us out at some point, even though you probably won't even see this. Jason and Travis.
Going with the one person who started out the first 9 games of the season with over 1,000 rushing yards. Or no, not rushing yards, over 1,000 receiving yards. And that is Tyreek Hill.
The funny thing about that is he's like one of two receivers that's actually good on the team, so it's like
Yeah.
makes sense. But
Yep. I am taking Tyreek Hill as the Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year.
I'm taking the All Pro, Pro Bowler slash 2-time Super Bowl champion Von Miller of the Buffalo Bills.
Going with Micah Parsons of Dallas. And we both agreed on the Coach of the Year, or unless you had something else in mind.
The Penn Stasher Nick Sirianni.
Nick Sirianni of the Eagles. The most impressive team in the first half.
I picked the Buffalo Bills.
I took the Philadelphia Eagles. The least impressive. The least impressive.
I picked the Packers.
I have the LA Rams. 3 members of the all-stud team.
All right. I'll show you my weapons. So, weapon number 1, Patrick Mother effin' Mahomes. Weapon number 2, Joe Mixon, Boomer Sooner. Weapon number 3, Cooper Kupp. And those are my 3 members of the all-stud team. Sorry, I said star, but same thing.
For
Go
me,
ahead.
the all-stud team is going to consist of Josh Allen of Buffalo, Derrick Henry, the NFL's leading rusher in Tennessee, and for the receiver, I went with the guy who I voted for Offensive Player of the Year, Tyreek Hill.
Part of me wants to imagine Josh Allen throwing to Tyreek Hill.
I mean, you got the arm strength and Josh Allen being able to hit Tyreek Hill accurately in stride, that's huge. But then now to the other side of the coin, 3 members of the all-dud team.
Jim Irsay, I hope that you don't hate me as much as you already probably don't do, because you probably don't listen to this podcast. My all-dud team, dud number 1, Matt Ryan. Dud number 2, tight end Tyler Higbee of the Los Angeles Rams.
Okay.
And dud number 3, because he played for the Dolphins but didn't really get picked on. He got picked last in dodgeball. Chase Edmonds of the now Denver Broncos. He was traded for, I believe it was Chubb. But yeah, number 1, Matt Ryan. 2, Higbee. 3, Chase Edmonds.
For me, I went number 1, Russell Wilson. Then I did Jonathan Taylor. And last but not least, I did Robbie Anderson. Yeah, Russell Wilson, because Bronco Country offense is dead inside.
No, it's Broncos country. Let's die.
Yeah, it's Let's Die. Yep.
Yeah, the only thing that's
Jonathan
flying,
Taylor,
the only thing that's flying really is the management. That's about it. But yeah.
the the second player I put was Jonathan Taylor. You drafted him highly in your fantasy football leagues. For what? Yep. And then Robbie Anderson, who got benched or kicked off the game, kicked out of a game by his own team, just for them to ship him off a couple of days later.
Has he
And
been
who do you
actually
have?
performing actually as far as with the Arizona Cardinals?
About 7 yards receiving. That's about it.
Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. When it comes to Robbie Anderson. All right, teams with
The
most to prove in the
team with
second
the
half.
most to prove in the second half.
I have the Dolphins because yeah, like in the beginning they looked pretty damn good, being 3-0, and then they kind of struggled a little bit, but it was because Tua turned the ball over, had some concussion issues, which was very controversial at the time and still is, but um, they still need to prove themselves as far as uh, a team that can stay healthy and stay strong, even though Tua had issues like Teddy B. Uh, also suffered some issues, so they had to go their third string. So that's why I put the Dolphins as the most to prove in the second half. Spanish.
At 4-4, you've got teams chasing you here. You got a favorable schedule. Atlanta. If you want to win the NFC South, you gotta do it here at this juncture of the schedule. And then the team that has surprised you the most, I'm not too surprised that we both have said the Jets and the Vikings. And with our lack of a primetime game, we now move on to our stud and dud of the week. And Ruckus, I know we've kind of teased actually both of our studs.
Go
I'll
for
let you
it.
go and
Go for
I'll
yours.
we teased mine first at the very beginning of this episode. I have Astro shortstop Jeremy Pena for getting a hit in every single game of this World Series and winning the MVP of the series during his first time there as an MLB rookie. And then my dud, I will hang on to for the hilarity of it. Let's get to your stud, Ruckus, who we've already teased.
All right, so my stud had the game of his life last week, and that man was Joe Mixon. Boomer Sooner. Uh, he, he had 22 carries for 153 yards and 5 touchdowns. Let me say that again. 5 touchdowns for Joe Mixon. That sounds like something that came out of Madden or if you still have NCAA football. Uh, that's a shitload of touchdowns against none other than the Panthers.
Well, the Panthers are not that good, so that was kind of to be expected.
But also, 5 touchdowns by your running back. A running back. Usually you would think, like, oh, we would throw the ball or do something else, but nope, it was all Joe Mixon.
Bengals
Boomer
playing
Sooner.
without Jamar Chase.
Even then,
Bengals are
you still have T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd.
Tyler Boyd, yeah, and then Hayden Hurst in the middle if you need it.
You want me to
And
talk about my
then
mention, or are you good?
yeah, you can go ahead. I think you mentioned, of course, Patrick Mahomes and kind of kind of his little pep talk to Malik Willis. So
Yep. So my mention was the message, obviously, as Sven has pointed out. Patrick Mahomes' message, literally as the Chiefs won the game against the Titans, he said, "Do it the right way and then keep it up." And that's pretty
yeah,
much all he had to say to the man. You don't have to come to the locker room later like Tom Brady did. Cough, cough.
yeah. And then your dud, Ruckus.
My dad, which probably Spence wants me to repeat multiple times. The dud is the Phillies' Game 6 of the World Series. Because, let's be honest, Game 5 and 6, if you even watched the game, which most of us probably didn't, Game 5 was pretty pathetic. Game 6 was even more pathetic. Yes, Game 6 looks like it could have maybe turned the tide for the Phillies, but they did not turn it. It turned into just a regular kind of pointless wave that everybody just kind of looked at and it was just like, yeah, it's just a little wave, It's just going up to shore. It's relaxing, But the Astros, they turned it into a tidal wave that turned into a 4 point or 3 point lead, and the Phillies just couldn't answer back. They couldn't ride the wave and get through it. So that's why I had the Phillies as my dud, because what the hell were they gonna do?
And then my dud had probably the funniest reaction. I gotta get on him. Adam Schefter. The wearing the chains and taking his shirt off, trying to play off of the Kirk Cousins shirtless clip on the plane as the Vikings were coming back to Minnesota from the Commanders game. And this was one of those segments that you would find on the private plane that these teams take. And
Also the
Schefter
main. Go ahead.
and Schefter's spoof of this. I mean, it was like it was funny to see him actually look and actually do it. It is the most cringeworthy thing I have seen in God knows how long.
Coming from the analyst that talked mad smack about Dwayne Haskins, but that's here nor there.
Mm. Or at least was trying to speak mostly brutal to the facts. Yeah.
Yeah. He's also said some other kind of weird claims, but who hasn't as an analyst or a sports broadcaster? Joe Buck.
Yeah. Ruckus, go ahead and take us out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Ruckus and the Menace podcast. I am Ruckus, always calls him
And
a
I
Ruckus.
and I was Menace the Menace.
Thank you for listening to our awesome sports podcast with two dudes talking sports. Thank you for listening, and also thank you for the support. And for the person that commented 2 weeks ago, thank you for the comments. Keep them up. Also, leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't, and let us know what ideas you have for the show and other things that we could possibly look after later. Anyways, deuces.
Deuce.